Folks, look, Supergirl is a rare treat, a treat that is hard to beat. In fact, it is so special and spectacular that it loses 1,018 screens on its third weekend and is the worst DC flop in 20 years. And that says an awful lot. I'm kind of excited to talk about this one. Coming from Cosmic Book News, let's jump into it. Here we go. Of course, before we get started, just a quick reminder, I'm trying to get to 50K. You can help with that. I would appreciate it if you would. Double check you're still subscribed. If so, click the bell icon, click all notifications so you don't miss anything, then hit the thumbs up button. Those 3 steps are remarkable. They change the trajectory of a channel and they help us grow faster. We're trying to get to 50,000 subscribers and 1,000 members. You can join the channel for some perks that are listed down below. Also, we're going to jump into this story from Matt McGloin over there at Cosmic Book News. He's been breaking a lot of stuff lately and kind of frustrating Warner Brothers, let's just say. All right, let's get into it. So, Supergirl loses 1,018 theaters, posts DC's second worst third Friday in 20 years, and some of it's probably the lack of the interest in the bad guy here, Krem. Weird looking, like, Pinhead replacement. Very strange. Anyway, exhibitors have seen enough, and I could say, so have I. This was not a good movie. But theaters pulled Supergirl from 1,018 locations heading into Friday, making sure that this film wasn't going to eat up screens that could be better used with better properties. And the film's 1.1 million third Friday gross now stands as the second worst for a theatrical exclusive DC film in 2 decades, according to the box office tracker, Luis Fernando, who, despite, being a shill most of the time, actually gets the numbers right anyway. So the only DC film to post a worst third Friday in that entire span is Joker Folie à Deux, which was a Folie à Deux. It was a absolute faux pas, to use more French. Anyway, Louise posted the X post here, and you can see it had a B- CinemaScore. That's no bueno. But the 1,018 theater purge on Friday led to another 69.4% collapse from the previous Friday of 3.6 million, which also led to an overall fumble number that I can't even believe is real. So Supergirl played in 3,602 theaters in its second weekend, and heading into the third, it's down to roughly 2,584. More than 1,000 screens gone in a single week, and I have to say, that's not surprising. Look, if you have more films coming in that can replace this bad film, you're going to move this film along. You're going to open up screens for Toy Story. You're going to open up screens for Moana. You're going to open up screens for other things that are still bringing in crowds. And believe it or not, Obsession is doing better than Supergirl. Not a surprise. Theaters don't cut comic book tentpole by thousands of theaters 3 weeks into the release unless the demand is dead, which we know there is no demand for this film. Screens will follow the money left, and nobody was left interested in this disaster. Deadline projects a 3.8 million third weekend, another 55% drop, right in line with the 3.5 million to 4 million range that Fernando guessed, and anybody could have guessed this. This thing is collapsing. And I did a video a day or so ago on Monday that you can actually see over there that shows you just how badly the box office was battered this last weekend. I think there was only $122 million in a weekend. That's very low for a tentpole summer. Anyway, Supergirl lands at number 8 on the domestic chart, and it's out of the top 5 after just 2 weekends, matching the fastest top 5 exits in modern DC history, alongside The Flash and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which I didn't find as offensive as many others did, but hey, to each their own. So keep an eye on the Sunday estimate, and of course we did, and it looks like this thing is, sitting around a 77% collapse from last weekend and another over 50% collapse this last weekend. Boy, this image told the story, didn't it? This particular graphic novel failed to interest comic readers, so of course let's show an image of that. And look, I'm not going to take a shot at Miley Alcock, who has an unfortunate name, but I'm going to take a shot at the idea of Tom King being the right guy to focus on when it comes to a brand new universe. I mean, you were looking at modern comics that didn't sell instead of, well, consistent performers from the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, and the Golden Age of comics. DC has a deep catalog with a lot of superheroes and a proper rogues gallery as well. Let's not forget about them. So as you see here, Joker, Folie, Deux, 659,000 with a 69.8% drop. Supergirl with a 69.4% drop. Dark Phoenix with a 55.7% drop. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, 1.2 million and 49.2% drop. And the numbers just keep going on. Now, The Flash was particularly awful. And I did not enjoy the film at all. And I really used to like the actor that plays the Flash until he went off the deep end and went completely crazy. But Supergirl is dead even with Dark Phoenix and with Shazam 2 and the Flash. And it's underperforming Blue Beetle, which is insane to think about because that was an unknown character that kind of came in the last minute as part of the Snyderverse. Birds of Prey is in the same ballpark as this, and the Marvels and Joker 2 are really like the best to compare against. So there's that. Theatrical exclusive releases are something that we didn't used to have to say because sometimes films were released during the pandemic era where we had films on screens and then films on streaming at the same time with Project Popcorn. But that's not what's happening now, and it doesn't explain all of the colossal failures that we've gotten recently. 110 million worldwide, the math doesn't work. No, it doesn't. And look, Supergirl, as of Friday, of course, now it's a little bit farther along, sat at 63.6 million domestic, 47.3 million international, 110 million worldwide. And those numbers are up a little bit, not all that much. And International just wasn't interested in this. I talked about this on a 6-Minute Daily a couple of days ago, and the reason I did is because there is no math that makes this work. International box office isn't showing up for Superman, so they're certainly not going to show up for Supergirl. And looking for the internationals to ride in on a white horse and save you is not going to happen. If this thing continues to perform roughly where it is now, it's going to finish around 130 to 135 million in overall global box office performance. That's not enough. In fact, that is so dismally bad that it doesn't even touch all the advertising budget because you only get half those receipts. It's not like there was a stellar release on IMAX that you could even point to that would save this thing. Now, Matt says here, this is how you get a $244 million theatrical loss estimate that even trades admit there's no way to spin. I think it's going to be more dire than that. But that's not the point of this video. The point of the video is this. Supergirl was a failure before it even came out. And the critics and everybody around me were already calling it before the film even came out. It's almost like we can see into the future and what the audience wants and what they don't. Don't you wish the studios still did that now? They used to. Not anymore. That's why you're going to end up with something that is a pretty disgusting version of the Odyssey. And you're going to have a lot of explaining to do if a Christopher Nolan film did not do well. And I don't think it's gonna, to be fair. But the screens followed the demand right on schedule. And that's where Supergirl lost out. IMAX, PLFs, all that just basically got taken over by Toy Story 5. And then in the same week, you have Warner Brothers quietly scrubbing the IMAX line from Clayface's official production materials to really kind of give it a break. I don't think people really want the Clayface movie. This is going to be one of those films that I think is going to be forgettable and maybe lead to the complete downfall of the Gunn era. But exhibitors only put films in theaters to make money. They're not going to keep things there when they're not making enough money on the product. And with the Odyssey opening on July 17th, which is just a few days away, and unfortunately I have to go see it, there's really nothing left in Warner's lineup that, well, will equal that. In fact, I would say that outside of the Odyssey, you've got Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is Sony, and then you have Avengers Doomsday at the end of the year. Other than Dune 3, what else do we have that's going to own the IMAX theaters the way Odyssey is about to? I don't think anything. Regardless, my thoughts are this. Supergirl, bad movie, bad result, bad comic, bad idea, and maybe just a bad studio head that shouldn't be around for much longer. Got another story on that coming up later in the week, so definitely be here to check that out. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! Just hopefully it's something better than Supergirl.